The first thing I noticed was the ceiling, white, speckled, and unfamiliar. A faint beeping pulsed near my head. My mouth was dry, my throat raw. When I tried to shift, a bolt of pain radiated from my hips down to my legs, stopping me cold. I blinked hard, willing clarity into my fogged vision. Miss Monroe. A nurse's voice came gently from my left. You're in recovery. You've been unconscious for 2 days. Her name tag read Camille. She adjusted my IV, checked the monitor, and offered me a sip of water through a straw. My lips cracked around it. I swallowed, then croaked, "What happened?" "You were in a car accident. A drunk driver ran a red light. You were T-boned at high speed." She paused. "Your legs." "Both were broken. You've had surgery. Metal rods were placed to stabilize the fractures." I closed my eyes. That explained the numb heaviness under the blankets. "Your parents were notified immediately," she added. "They came by briefly. Left some things. They said they were catching a flight." "A flight?" She nodded. "They didn't leave details. Just said they'd be out of the country." My fingers twitched toward the tray beside me. My phone. Camille helped place it in my hand. Notifications lit the screen, but only one stood out: a voicemail from my mother, time-stamped 7:42 a.m. that morning. I hit play. "Hi, honey, it's Mom. Just wanted to let you know we're at the airport boarding our flight to New Zealand." Her voice was chipper, like she was announcing brunch plans. "We've been meaning to take this trip for ages, and since Ivy's between jobs, we figured why not bring her too?" There was a pause, then muffled laughter in the background. My father's voice came through, distant but clear. "Tell her not to call. Roaming charges are brutal." "Oh, right. Don't call us while we're in Queenstown, okay? The hospital has our email if there's an emergency. We'll be back in 3 weeks. Love you, click." I stared at the phone. 3 weeks. Queenstown. Ivy. And don't call. The heart monitor quickened. Camille glanced over. "You okay?" I nodded, too stunned to speak. The truth settled in slowly, like a bruise forming under skin. They knew I was here. They'd visited while I was unconscious. And then they left. On vacation. With Ivy. My legs were broken, my body stitched together with titanium. But the pain that bloomed in my chest wasn't physical. It was sharp, clean, and final. I turned my face away from Camille and stared at the wall, silent, as tears slipped from the corners of my eyes and into the pillow. I used to think our family was normal. We had a 2-story house on the edge of Portland with a backyard full of blackberry bushes and an old swing set my dad built when I was 6. Dinners were always at the table. Chores were divided by chart. From the outside, we looked intact. But there were always lines, quiet ones you didn't cross. I was the quiet one. Tidy, reliable A student. Ivy was the spark. Messy, loud, endlessly forgiven. She was the baby the accident mom liked to joke about, born 4 years after me, but treated like royalty from day one. I don't remember resenting it, not exactly. I just learned early that if something needed to get done, I'd better handle it myself. That carried through school. I earned a full scholarship to Oregon State, studied computer science, graduated early. No one came to my graduation because Ivy had a dress rehearsal for her dance recital that couldn't be missed. I didn't complain. I just framed my degree and mailed a thank you card to the financial aid office. At 25, I landed a job with Dynatrace, then moved to a role at an up-and-coming firm in downtown Portland. Bought a modest condo with my signing bonus. I remember Mom crying on FaceTime, saying how proud she was, how much she and Dad had always believed in me. A few months later, Dad mentioned they were thinking about retiring early. Said Mom's back was acting up and school budgets were tight. I offered to help and they accepted like they'd been waiting for the invitation. Then came Ivy's first career pivot. She quit her job in marketing to explore event planning. I paid for her certification course. Then a new wardrobe. Then a second pivot, culinary school, then photography, then something else I stopped keeping track of. She never kept anything longer than 6 months. Their house got repainted. They put in a gas fireplace, took trips to Napa to Santa Fe. Ivy got Invisalign. I got emails titled, "Just a little short this month." I always said yes. They called me generous, grounded, the glue of the family. And for a long time, I believed them. I believed love meant giving. I believed support was unconditional, even when it flowed only one way. Until I opened my bank app 2 days after surgery and realized just how far that belief had taken me. 3 days after surgery, I asked Camille to bring me my laptop. I told her I needed to check work emails, but the truth was I needed answers. The pain meds made the screen blur at first, but I pushed through it, logging into my bank account with trembling fingers. The numbers weren't surprising, just sobering. Over the past month alone, I'd transferred $2,000 to Mom and Dad for house expenses, another $500 labeled Ivy job prep, plus $800 to cover their SUV payment. There were utilities subscriptions, even their grocery delivery. All told, $800 had left my account that month, quietly, automatically. I clicked into my credit card portal next and felt my stomach twist. A $12.47 charge from Southern Skies Travel Co. appeared posted 2 days after the accident. My credit card. Their vacation. I stared at the line item like it might vanish. When it didn't, I opened a new tab and pulled up Ivy's Instagram. She hadn't posted much during the flight, but once they'd landed, the feed came alive. A photo of her in a plush robe holding a flute of something sparkling on a balcony overlooking a lake. Lake Wakatipu, if I remembered my geography right. Spa day with the fam Queenstown is magic. Best trip ever. Chattas, sister sponsorship. The next image was of my dad on a winery tour, swirling red in a stemmed glass. Then, Mom in oversized designer sunglasses beaming outside a boutique with bags dangling from both arms. Ivy again, this time straddling a rental bike, captioned, "When your sister's hustle funds your freedom." I didn't feel angry. Not yet. Just cold. Numb in a way that had nothing to do with painkillers or anesthesia. These weren't strangers. These were my people. The ones I had taken care of month after month, year after year. And while I was unconscious in a trauma unit, they were sampling Pinot Noir and tagging me in captions like I was a generous corporate sponsor. I clicked out of Instagram and opened the spreadsheet I used to track family expenses. The last column had been updated 2 days before the crash. I'd even noted a reminder to increase Mom's monthly allowance because she said the heating bill was higher this winter. I stared at that note until my vision blurred again, not from pain this time, but from something deeper. I had given them everything: time, money, trust. And they had packed it into suitcases, boarded a plane, and toasted to their freedom somewhere over the Tasman Sea. I closed the laptop and placed it on the tray. Camille walked in a few minutes later with a gentle smile and a dose of something stronger. "Try to get some rest," she said, adjusting my blankets. I nodded, but rest wouldn't come. My mind had already started making a list one I hadn't known I'd need. The first time I mentioned the word fraud, Camille didn't flinch. She just asked, "Do you want me to call the hospital social worker?" That's how I met Mr. Reyes. Soft-spoken but sharp, with the kind of calm you want in a room when everything feels like it's catching fire. I told him everything: how my parents had access to my accounts, how I'd been covering their expenses for years, how they used my credit card to fly to New Zealand 2 days after I was nearly killed. He listened without interrupting, taking notes with a slow, deliberate hand. When I finished, he looked at me and said, "You're not crazy, and you're not alone." He helped me contact my bank's fraud department. Camille sat next to me as I explained the unauthorized charges. I canceled the card they'd used and ordered replacements, passwords changed, access revoked. Then came the auto transfers, every scheduled payment to my parents, every recurring deposit to Ivy's so-called career accounts. Canceled. My savings. What little remained after years of quiet giving was moved into a new account at a different bank, entirely one they'd never know existed. Mr. Reyes helped me draft a written statement for the fraud team and connect with legal resources in case things escalated later. But the most satisfying part came at the end: the return flight. I remembered the email confirmation buried somewhere in the digital clutter sent to me because my credit card was on file. It took 10 minutes to dig it up. I clicked the link. There it was. Queenstown to San Francisco next Wednesday. 2 adults, 1 seat upgrade for Ivy. A single click. Cancel booking. Are you sure I clicked yes? The partial refund hit my card immediately, a quiet ping like punctuation on a sentence I hadn't realized I'd been writing. They told me not to call, I said softly, turning to Camille. So I won't. She smiled, not with pity, but something more resolute. Let me know if you want help drafting an email to the airline. We can note that the card was used without permission. I nodded, breathing in deeply. The air felt clearer. That evening, while the sky outside turned a soft amber, I stared at the ceiling and counted backward through every favor I'd done every time I said yes when I wanted to say no. I didn't feel heroic. I felt emptied out, but not broken. They had left me in a hospital bed and boarded a flight toward a life they thought I'd always fund. But I was learning that silence could speak louder than any argument. The emails started at 2:07 a.m., Portland time. I was half asleep, drifting in and out of medicated haze when my phone buzzed twice, then again. Camille had reminded me to turn off notifications, but I hadn't listened. A part of me had been waiting for this. The subject line from Dad read, "What the hell is going on inside? We're stranded in Queenstown. Our cards are declining. The bank says the account was locked. This is cruel, Talia. We're your parents." 2 minutes later, Mom followed with her own. "I don't know what this phase is, but it needs to stop. You need to call the bank and undo whatever you did. This is not normal. We raised you better than this." Then, Ivy chimed in with "seriously over a car crash. You're being dramatic. You'll be fine. Nurses are paid for that. We're stuck here and it's your fault." Each message was a different flavor of the same entitlement shock dressed as concern control disguised as care. I forwarded all 3 to the legal contact Mr. Reyes had set me up with. I didn't need to defend myself. The paper trail was doing that for me. I stared at Ivy's message the longest. "You'll be fine, nurses are paid for that." Like my recovery was some line item on an invoice. Like being pinned to a bed with rods in my legs was nothing more than a budget inconvenience. I hit reply. "Boundaries are free, and you just hit one." I pressed send and felt a calm I hadn't known in weeks. Not satisfaction exactly, just clarity. More emails followed. Dad accused me of being mentally unstable. Mom said I was lashing out because I was emotionally unwell. Ivy tried again with sarcasm. "Guess Queenstown wasn't scenic enough to make you chill out." I stopped reading after that. By morning, I had blocked their numbers. I left the email open not for communication, but documentation. If they wanted to escalate, I'd be ready. Camille brought breakfast around 8. I was quiet as she adjusted my pillows, and she didn't press. Just placed the tray, gently poured the coffee, and handed me my phone back like it weighed something. "Did they write?" she asked. I nodded. "A lot." She didn't ask what they said. She just sat down beside me, peeled an orange, and split the slices onto a napkin between us. I chewed in silence, slow and steady. That evening, the sun dipped low behind the hospital blinds, casting the room in quiet gold. I scrolled through my inbox one last time and deleted Ivy's message. Not out of forgiveness, but because it no longer needed space in me. Their silence after that wasn't peace, but it was quieter than the noise they'd always made. They showed up unannounced on a Wednesday. The charge nurse called my room just after noon, her voice tight. "Your parents and sister are downstairs," she said. "They're upset." I asked Camille to stay with me. She didn't even hesitate. She rolled in an extra chair and stood beside me while I adjusted the back of the bed upright, trying to look stronger than I felt. They came in fast eyes, narrowed arms, crossed voices already raised. "What is wrong with you?" Mom started storming to the foot of the bed. "Do you have any idea what you've put us through?" Dad followed. Stranded in a foreign country, humiliated in front of friends, we had to borrow money to get home. "You've embarrassed this family." Ivy lingered by the door, sunglasses still pushed up in her hair. "You really milked this whole crash thing, huh?" Camille stepped forward. "If anyone raises their voice again, I'll have security escort you out. This is a hospital." That shut them up at least for a beat. I took a slow breath and picked up the manila folder from my tray. "These are the terms I said." "Prepared by my attorney." Dad scoffed. "Terms. What are we, your employees?" I ignored him and continued. One-time transition payment. No more monthly support. No more shared accounts. If you want to have a relationship with me, it will be through a licensed family mediator. Otherwise what Ivy snapped. You'll pretend you're an orphan now. Otherwise, I said calmly, we go our separate ways. Mom reached for the papers, but she didn't read them. She just shook her head. This isn't you, Talia. This is some breakdown. This is me, I said. Just not the version you got to control. No one moved. No one apologized. They left with the folder unopened. I stared at the door long after it clicked shut, waiting for regret to show up. It didn't. Camille placed her hand gently on my arm. You did it, she said. And for the first time since the crash, I believed her. Aunt Noreen picked me up from the hospital on a rainy Friday afternoon. She had an extra pillow already in the passenger seat and a playlist of soft jazz humming low through the speakers. We didn't talk much on the drive. She just kept her eyes on the road and said, we'll take it one day at a time. Her house was quiet one story and smelled faintly of lemon balm and something freshly baked. She'd had a ramp installed the week before. The guest room had a walk-in shower and a stack of towels already folded in the closet. She gave me space without making me feel alone. It was over dinner one night a week later that she finally told me what I think she'd been holding in since the accident. They did the same thing to your grandfather, you know, she said, pouring herself a cup of tea. Drained his pension while he was in hospice. Used the money to book back-to-back cruises. Said he would have wanted them to enjoy what time they had left. I didn't respond. I just nodded and let the weight of it settle. It wasn't just me. It had never just been me. Physical therapy started the following Monday. It was grueling, every motion like dragging my limbs through concrete, but each session ended with progress no matter how small. Standing, balancing, 3 steps with a walker. I kept at it. I reached out to friends I'd fallen out of touch with, people I hadn't seen since college or since work got busy or since family needs always seemed to come first. Some wrote back, some didn't, but enough did. I met Carly for lunch, took a call from my old mentor, invited a few neighbors over for soup one evening and didn't overthink it. Camille came to visit a week after I moved in. She brought blueberry muffins and sat with me on the porch while the rain eased up. I know this is technically against policy, she said smiling as she brushed a crumb off her lap, but I'd like to take you out for coffee sometime. Not as your nurse. I didn't say anything for a second. I just looked at her, really looked, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Safety. Warmth. Okay, I said. I'd like that. We went out that Sunday. The cafe was small, tucked between a bookstore and a dry cleaner. She ordered chai. I got black coffee. We didn't talk about the hospital or the accident or even my family. We talked about travel and music and what it means to start over. As I stirred my cup, I realized something simple but stunning. I wasn't starting over alone. A year later, the apartment smelled like roasted garlic and rosemary. I'd set the table for 5, just enough for the people who'd stayed. Camille brought lemon tart in a box tied with twine, and Aunt Noreen walked in with a bottle of sparkling cider tucked under one arm. Carly and Marcus from physical therapy arrived a few minutes later, arms full of laughter and stories. We ate slow, talked over each other, passed dishes back and forth like we'd known each other forever. It wasn't a celebration exactly. Just a moment. A soft one. The kind you don't take for granted after the kind you survive. After dessert, while Camille rinsed dishes and Noreen folded napkins into neat quarters, I slipped into the bedroom for a breath of quiet. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Ivy lit the screen. Can we talk? Just us? No apology. No acknowledgement. Just another open door she hadn't earned. I let the screen dim without responding. The message would stay unread like the others before it. I had nothing left to explain. Some bridges don't burn, they just quietly fall behind you. Back in the living room, Camille poured us both a second glass of cider and leaned into my shoulder with a soft sigh. The kind of sound that only comes from comfort, not effort. Above the bookshelf behind her, a small framed card rested between a photo of the Oregon coast and a ceramic bird my grandfather had once given me. The lettering was simple. Sometimes the silence you give back is the closure they deserve. I didn't need to call. I didn't need to fix it. The weight I used to carry wasn't mine anymore. As I leaned back into the sofa, the hum of conversation around me felt like home, quiet, chosen, real. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like someone who had been left behind. I felt like someone who had left for good reason and finally found where she was meant to be.